Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Johnny Christ, and you are listening or watching to Drinks with Johnny. I am joined today by a man of many names, many things. WWE Hall of Famer, Cactus Jack, Mankind, Mick Foley, Dude Love, father, husband, Mick Foley. Thanks for doing the show, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on here. We put this together in a hurry, right?
Yeah, man. I was talking about it yesterday.
That's right. And I didn't even know you came to my show last night.
Yeah, I was there last night
secretively.
Yeah.
And you can vouch it's a pretty good show, right?
It's a very good show. Yeah, so it's you're out on the road right now doing a anniversary tour of the book. Have a Nice Day. Tale of Blood and Sweat Socks. Great.
Yeah, I just thought it was. I took my cue from some other musicians who celebrate 20th anniversaries of certain albums, and I wanted to erase that. Like, well, what's he talk about? Does he do like current events and do politics? And I was like, no, these are stories from the book. Bring them to life on stage. And if even you saw the show last night, even if you know the stories, I think it's just different when you hear the guy telling them.
Absolutely.
And I think going out there nightly gives me the chance to work on the stories, improve them, and if I see fit, to exaggerate them a little bit. I don't
well, I definitely enjoyed the set last night. I have to say that one of my favorite things was your interaction with the crowd too. You're out here, you're talking to these fans of yours that are, obviously very knowledgeable. They know the books, they know your life, they have great questions, and you're answering these questions for them. And then another underrated part that I loved was your impersonation of Terry Funk. I have to say that was the voice was pretty spot on. I could close my eyes and you know this as a wrestling fan, you know some of the stories and some of going through, and you guys have been together for a long time. He's kind of a mentor and father figure.
Yeah, I love telling the Funk stories, especially because he meant so much to my career, and then I get to selectively go through and pick out stories that I like telling, and it's funny because not everybody's aware of is as knowledgeable about Terry as you are. And even if they don't know the voice, it still resonates as being his voice.
Oh, it is.
And last night I went back and I reflect on Terry Funk telling the Undertaker that I was still breathing, and then I throw in the laugh, which we set up earlier in the show, and it gets this great reaction. Terry didn't actually laugh when he said it, but that's where you have the creative freedom to be I'm going to do a little callback to that laugh that people enjoy, and it gets a nice response.
And that's fun, that's great. And I'm so glad that you're talking about the tour and everything too. I know that I did this podcast, one of my first ones was with Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah.
The sinners of gates, when you step through those ropes, know this. It's not my fault.
He mentioned that he was going through kind of the same things that I think I've heard that you've had too, where over the years of a lot of abuse in the ring, and for you kind of outside of the ring too, there was a lot of connectors that you want, that the brain is a muscle basically, and getting out here every night and
talking about this, like I do get serious from time to time. Like I'm in comedy venues, but like I love the idea that one man show, it is whatever it is on that given night. And I think it was during the Q&A that I acknowledged that I'd had some trauma, and that I had found a way to exercise my brain. So in a sense, on a nightly basis, people are paying to watch me do rehab.
Yeah, that's great.
It's good because you can either toss and throw in the towel and say there's nothing I can do, or you can fight it. So I'm lucky that I'm not only fighting it, but I'm doing it in a way that I enjoy, that fulfills me creatively, and it allows me to make a pretty good living doing it.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that I know all of your fans are loving it too.
Yeah, they really enjoy it. You see, I remember a guy, a good guy, concerned about my set. He was like, "You got to work on your LPMs. It's laughs per minute." And I was like, I don't care about my LPMs. This reminds me of jumping into music a little bit. I have a friend who's a bass player.
Okay.
Her name's Catherine Popper, and she was on that dual rotation with Jack White when he had the all-female band and the all-male band. And luckily, when I went to see him play at Radio City, my friend Catherine was in the lineup. But we got together, was talking with some of the other band members, and he said, the keyboard player said, Jack told me, like, listen, I don't care about the notes. And he went to say something, and Jack looked at me and goes, no, I mean it. I don't care about the notes. What I care about is the feeling behind the notes.
That's great, yeah.
And I don't care how many things you miss, as long as, when you're hitting it, it's, it's legit.
With intention.
Yeah, and that's the way that I was talking to him. Like, no, I don't care about the number of laughs. The only thing I care about is the way people feel when they leave the building. Do they have a big smile on their face? Do they think it was worth the time and trouble and the money they spent? And that's all I care about. Because to me, rating the number of laughs in one of these shows would be like rating the number of bumps that you take in a wrestling match.
Yeah.
It's not the number, it's when you do it, why, and how you make people feel, when that match is over.
Yeah, and I think that's, from what I've learned from you over many years of following you as a wrestler, the way that Superfly Jimmy Snuka made you feel at a time, and that was kind of the birth of Cactus Jack.
Yeah,
in a way,
I was chasing that feeling, wanted to make people feel the way that I did that night.
I went back and watched a bunch of stuff, and I saw the first pay-per-view I could find. I'm sure there were some prior to, but in 1990, Cactus Jack Manson, the name Manson gets dropped all the time.
It did, yeah. I dropped it,
That was your creative
yeah,
thing.
I dropped it. I interest of full disclosure, I didn't like it, but it was bestowed on me. Mm-hmm. Robert Fuller told me, Jacko, a guy like you could use a good gimmick. You work a gimmick, you could ride that a long way. And he pretty much told me, odds were against me, the way I looked, the way people expected people in the business look at that time, and if you could find a gimmick that worked for you. And so I may have resisted, but when I threw myself into it, I threw myself in wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. I did a Helter Skelter music video. Yeah. That was well done, I changed it to my entrance music, so I can't say I resisted it. But when I did have the power to change it, I changed it.
I think it served its purpose for a quick time, but it was easy to drop. Everyone, you were Cactus Jack before when you still had that.
So you're talking about the match, and is this me and Norman?
Yes, Norman, the lunatic.
Yeah.
So, this was a great match. I was watching back at it.
I don't know if you could call it great. I'll tell you what, I do remember about that, is that it was Ric Flair's birthday. He wrestled Lex Luger for 46 or 48 minutes, had a great match with Luger, and I think Luger's been underrated as an asset over the last 10 years or so. But it happened to be Ric Flair's birthday. How I got invited, I don't know. But Terry was at the party. Rick had a big suite, like 3-room suite at the hotel. I had to walk across the street from the Motel 6 or something. And Terry was there. Terry told almost like a parable about an angel and a devil, and how the angel ended up saying, "Don't you see, without you, there's no me." And then he looked at me and says, "Norman was an angel out there, but you were not the devil." Like, he was telling me I had to concentrate, work harder at getting my heat, not rely on just the big bumps, but make everything I did as meaningful as possible. And that really stuck with me, because that was one of the hardest things I had to work on. That I'm not a naturally aggressive person. I alluded to not being like the classic alpha male personality, and so I really had to work on that to make it, to come across as being, a threat in the ring.
Yeah. That's incredible, because when as an outsider you see Cactus Jack, I definitely didn't. Cactus Jack and Mankind specifically. Those two characters are pretty far from tame.
By the time I got to 96, or even by 91 when I was with Sting, I was scaring people on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And not just women and children. There were some teenagers in their formative years, I threw a little fear into, and
I can imagine.
It's great when you meet an adult and they're like, "You terrified me."
I want to go back to real quick to
ahead.
the story with on Ric Flair's birthday.
Yeah.
What was this party like? Can you be a little bit more? Can you paint that picture a little bit better? More specifically, you don't strike me as anyone that really partake too much in the party life. But once upon a time you were younger, I imagine. And
I was never much of a partaker.
Yeah.
I may throw in an additional story tonight that I didn't last night about being in college and just almost being in a trance-like state. And a friend of mine comes over and he was like, "What's going on? You're just staring out this window." And I was like, just wondering, if I were to jump off that roof, do you think that garbage can could break my fall? It was all that was on my mind. He goes, I think you need another drink. I said, I'm not drinking. Like, everything I saw around me was a challenge. Like, could I do this?
Yeah.
Could I do this? And it was never, I was always concerned about the physical fallout. So it was always, can I do this within my, do I have the ability to do this? Because one thing about wrestling is no matter what type of pounding you take one night, you're out there the next night doing it again. And for a business that's, people assume involves faking things.
Yeah.
What you're faking most of the time is when you are pretending not to be hurt when you are. So as much as people think we feign pain, most of the time
it's not the case.
We're feigning not being injured or beaten up and broken down.
I could see how that would easily be the case. Yeah. And you mentioned a couple of times that people think you're crazier than you are, but you have a way that you see everything.
Foley risk reward ratio analysis.
You see everything. and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, is he just full of it? Does he know that everything he's doing, even if he thinks?
Well, there were, I make it seem like the instantaneous Foley risk reward ratio analysis was never wrong. There were plenty of times where I was like, I could have sworn I could have done that. What happened?
Well, I mean, some of those things, like for me, I grew up watching Cactus Jack in WCW at my grandmother's house. She had
cool.
cable, and she had TNT and TBS.
Oh, nice.
So that's what we were watching it on. And you kind of came onto the scene, and I saw you battling all the top guys. There was Sting, Vader, Ron Simmons. When Ron Simmons became the first African American champion at the time. And one of my favorite battles had to be with Vader. And I remember, how was it like wrestling Leon?
Man, it was. I geared up for every one of those matches, whether it was televised or just a house show. Like, to me, it was like my Ali Frazier. I mean, that's how seriously I took it. And there was a show maybe 5-6 days ago where I was asked like about a high point of my career, and I talked about Halloween Havoc against Vader, and I ended up grabbing a fan's camera and hitting Leon with it. And then I looked out at the crowd, and they just kind of all reacted as my gaze was upon them. Like they reacted, like en masse. And then they said, "What's the low point?" I go, "Me realizing I'd never get that high again." Yeah. And then I was wrong. Like I'm so thankful that wasn't the peak of my career, but at the time, I thought it was. But I put everything I had, and we left it all out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was very evident. I can't remember if it was a Saturday night or if it was leading into one of the pay-per-views where he gave you a Vader bomb on the concrete.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm sure you've talked about that till the cows come home, so you go to it. But I just remember it. I remember seeing it when I was, about 6-7 years old. And, and like not really fully grasping it at the time, but I was like, there is no way to brace that fall.
No, it could have been worse. I mean, he kind of took care of me, but I was preparing for the worst. Wrote out a little last will and testament before I did, legit.
Wow.
Left it for my wife in case things didn't work out well.
Damn.
And they did, I mean, the follow-up was awful. That was with the Lost in Cleveland thing.
Did you? So I was going to bring that up. Was that your creative? Was that given to you?
That was Dusty. Now Dusty
okay.
deserves every accolade thrown his way about being a creative genius, but that doesn't mean he doesn't miss. Once in a while.
Everyone's
wide right, but I went in with the idea of doing something with Vader because when the Cactus Jack character went on, had the babyface turn, fans were really excited. But they didn't empathize with me during the heat part of the match because they were seeing me do something they'd been told for 2 years that I thrived on and enjoyed. So it was like big response at the beginning, big response at the end. It's like, okay, he doesn't need our help. It's like the subconscious thought, like he enjoys this stuff. So I went to Dusty and I said, who I don't have that problem with is Vader.
Yeah.
And I said his stuff is, is just so overwhelming. He's so much bigger. And then I was thinking of doing like an injury, a power bomb. And then Dusty's eyes lit up, and he's like,
We just rolled
We'll
with
take
it.
you
And
up the
next
road.
thing,
Yeah, he was like, well, you won't even remember
next thing
your
you know,
wife's
you're in
name.
Cleveland.
Yeah. And
But then, so there was like a swerve though that happens right afterward. All of a sudden, it seems like. Then all of a sudden, Cactus was just playing.
That's the way I covered it. I was,
That's how you covered it. Okay, I wanted to know. Yeah.
They pulled the plug on the scenario like 8 weeks into a 12-week run, and so I had to have some reason. And so my reason was I was just getting into his head, playing mind games, and yet the announcers were still covering it like I had been lost in Cleveland all that time. We delivered. We had a heck of a match. I wasn't crazy about the ending. But it was already like preordained that was the end of the road for that angle. Like no matter how big we came up, that was the book was ended there.
Following up the Vader thing though, briefly we go over. You're in Germany. You lose your ear from the rope. Everyone who knows wrestling knows this story, and I'm sure unless you got something you want to add to it.
Well, just that, only in the business of wrestling is losing your ear not necessarily a bad thing. Like, it's actually a pretty good thing. And then when the powers that be didn't do anything with it, I just saw the writing on the wall. I was like, man, this is a gift from the writing, the creative gods. Guy loses an ear. And I just thought if they're not going to do anything with this, and it was kind of combined with the fact that I'd really worked on my German to where I could cut great German promos. They didn't have me do anything. My honest feeling was they didn't want me to get over past the extent that I was pre-assigned. Yeah. Gotcha.
So that's interesting. That's actually what I wanted to get to. This happens in when did this?
That was March, I think 14th or 17th of '94.
'94. So at this time, Eric Bischoff has come in at WCW now.
I can't. Don't quote me on that. I think he was, but there was a lot of cooks.
A lot of people, I think that was he had probably just started to come in and wasn't overseeing everything at that point. I mean, he was transitioning from announcer and commentator. I feel like
so. I can't point the finger at one person. And besides, 26 years later, I don't want to start any. Everything worked out really well for me, but I did, and maybe they just didn't think that I had it. And if that was the case, hopefully I proved them wrong.
They were dead wrong.
I think they thought I had it up to a certain level.
Yeah.
But even, I remember guys, like there was a guy named Frank Dusick, and he was a big proponent of mine in world-class championship wrestling. But when I was ready to leave, he's like, you sure you want to do this? He's like, you will always have a home here. He goes, you're never going to be a top guy. You're always going to be bottom of the top, top of the bottom. And then when I made him aware of that, like 13 years later, maybe even 10 years later, he literally got down on his knees, kind of a mock gesture, but still very much appreciated. He said, I have never been so glad to be wrong. So even people who liked me and liked my style and thought I was an asset didn't necessarily see me breaking through to that next level.
Yeah, which is very interesting because obviously you did. You moved on to, you did ECW for a couple years there. And the one briefly over that, there was kind of a triangle of rivalry there with, I believe it was Sandman and the franchise, and you guys were getting in brawls all the time there, like hardcore matches there.
Yeah, at one point Shane came to my rescue against Sandman,
and then it somehow it all kind of turned around.
I did, yeah. It was really interesting. I mean, I was, Paulie. He wanted guys there who wanted to get new talent over. So Terry Funk was probably the best who's ever done that, and he helped kind of carried that promotion, put it on his shoulders, brought it to the next level. Paul knew that I liked to do that anyway, so we kind of brought Tommy Dreamer aboard as the guy, who was, standing behind me. Then when I turned on Tommy with Raven, we did some really good stuff, and I love the idea of elevating talent and trying to make the place a little better.
You've always been very good at that. You're one of the guys that can put over anybody when you're taking bumps. When it just looks so believable. You're just getting. I mean, and it probably felt pretty believable to you too.
Felt believable most nights. It did. Yeah. My mathematical equation was okay if it hurts me a lot. People will think it hurts me a
Yeah.
little. They're like, all right, that had to hurt.
So now you're moving on to the WWF. You're coming in. You're coming in on April 1st in 1996.
I did,
in the debut Raw. Leading up to this, you're cutting some of my favorite promos. You're talking to a rat in a boiler room. Yeah, I mean, it's just. And I remember looking at it going, that's Cactus Jack. And I don't know for a lot of the fans out there, when all that shifting around, when WCW, ECW, WWF, and all this talent is kind of pulling together, and I wasn't a guy reading the magazines. I was just watching it on TV. It was starting to get confusing. I was like, why are they calling this guy Mankind? It's Cactus Jack. And then the promos come out, and then you come out and you put the mandible claw on Bob Holly.
Bob Holly, that's right, that night. Then I jumped the Undertaker later in that program, and we were off to the races. It's funny because maybe a year after that, year 97, 98 for sure, it became really a big deal to raid the other company's talent. But here I was sitting there, not just sitting there. I was working Japan, I was working ECW, I was busy, every weekend. And I was really committed to trying to steal the show everywhere I went, no matter what the size of the crowd was. And they had a chance. They could have brought in Cactus Jack, but Vince McMahon was not a fan. If the wrestling war had been there in earnest, maybe they would have taken a chance on that character, but he just didn't think it was a big enough name and didn't like the character.
However it worked out, I'm glad, because I absolutely love Mankind. I thought the character was great, and the fact that you jumped a lot of the reins right away too to go straight to Taker. I mean, Taker's the big guy on campus, But you'd worked with him in WCW a little bit before.
Well, I knew him. I mean, I don't think we ever wrestled,
okay.
But I traveled with him. I remember staying over at his house, his parents' house. Family was real nice.
Got any fun stories with the Taker?
One story is I knew he was a little disgruntled with the way they were using him. Ole Anderson, luckily wasn't just wrong about me.
And this is back in WCW.
Yeah, he was wrong about Undertaker as well. I mean, just thought he was going to be at this level. Never foresaw him bursting through like he did. So when I was watching Survivor Series 1990, here I am. I last saw the guy 5 months earlier. He comes out, might as well have been a completely new human being, right, with that amazing character. And so in WrestleSpeak, I marked out for that character. Every time I saw it, it's like I was aware it was the guy that I knew and traveled with. But in another way, he was like a different human being. So one night, I think 92, somewhere in there, I see the Undertaker's hearse that had drives going through a drive-through. I start chasing the car, like knocking on the door, like, "Hey, Mark, it's me, Cactus." And he did open the window. So that was the last time I saw him before
you moved
I came in '96. So I have to believe that he wanted to do business.
And he wanted to bring you in and do that.
When he heard I was coming in, he was like, "Yeah, there's a guy I can do business with." I think he was just tired of working with guys who were bigger than him, Like,
that was always for the
who did he
early
get
'90s. He was
Undertaker?
always
All right.
against. He was battling all the giants.
Yeah,
he was he
6'10".
was the giant that was slaying giants.
Yeah, that's it.
Go figure that. But then you got into. I mean, you had that epic. I mean, I feel like you and the Undertaker, or Mankind and the Undertaker rather, kept battling throughout.
We did.
But in between those, there was a lot of battles with Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Triple H. Obviously, the great moments of the Hell in the Cells, that happened. Famously, when Taker throws you through the commentating table, and you kind of see the look on his face. It's almost broken character, pretty much at that point.
As close as he gets to breaking character. Yeah. He was a little concerned about me. And that, even though I did the special 2 years ago about that one match in particular, no one minds when I occasionally talk about it. I did last night.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't. If it's in the Q&A, I'm always happy to talk about that match.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just one of many incredible ones, in my opinion. And then, you get into tag teaming with The Rock.
Just thinking, you've taken more notes here. I'm looking at your
Oh, you mean these?
Look at that.
This is what I do every time, people.
Wow.
I put together, I try to make sure, we don't get through all this. It's just me to go back on you. But I want to get to The Rock and Sock.
Let's talk about it.
So you got Mankind. He's done the corporate stuff, and now he's getting a little silly. Mankind is getting a little silly now, and he's got Sacco out.
Yeah.
And he joins up with The Rock, and you guys have some fun. And this is when you start to see, in my book, this is the first time I can see Mick Foley kind of bring out that happy humor, that stuff that we get to see.
And you know,
now.
it coincided with the decline of my knees, and really, I had been taking a beating for a long time. It was catching up to me, and I was trying to figure out how to keep my head above water there. That's one of the great challenges for any wrestlers. Not to stay, it's like musicians. Like, okay, unless you're AC/DC and people love you in that box, and they don't want you to, they don't want you to sing a sensitive ballad no matter what, they don't want to see character growth. They want that.
It's their party night.
Yeah.
It may be the nth time that we've done it, but it's their one night to get out and enjoy the night.
Exactly.
And that's great.
But in our case, we have to kind of keep tweaking things before the audience realizes that the character needs to be tweaked. So I could point to any number of people who didn't realize that process, relied on the same catchphrases too long, and it was like they kind of got swept away.
You also
changing tides.
Yeah, I mean, and you always were able to keep ahead of that. I will say, you had a great, always had a great tagline and everything like that, and very brilliant in that. Are those all yours? The creative, the Bang Bang, the Have a Nice Day.
Bang Bang was mine. Have a Nice Day was just Jim Ross saying offhand, and then just he was telling me what they were looking for in that first promo with George the Rat. He threw out the Have a Nice Day line, and I just rode that bad boy for the last 20.
And now you're on tour on the Have a Nice Day tour.
Have a Nice Day, yeah.
No, so then you mentioned some knee issues and stuff like that. And I read somewhere that you've been an advocate to help other pro wrestlers who have retired and have health issues and getting.
I try, I try to get the word out there. Sometimes there's GoFundMe's that I'll contribute to, and I'll try to get the word out. Someone like ODB, her food truck burned down, and I was trying to get people, behind it to help her. This is her dream, her post-wrestling dream.
Yeah.
And she does an amazing job. She really holds court at that food truck, is on all the time. Goes out and takes photos. It's a 16-hour day, preparing the food, serving the food, breaking it down, all those things. And so when I was in San Jose, I declared it ODB night, and luckily we had a sellout in San Jose, which is about a 400-seater, and we raised quite a bit of money. And she didn't get quite to where she wanted to get, but she got enough. She got enough, with my help, the help of a few other wrestlers, hundreds of fans helping out. So when I do see someone in our business, who maybe loved the business more than it loved them back, I try to reach out and help when I can.
You like to send them your love.
I truly do try.
Which brings me to your next character.
Dude.
Now this character I absolutely love. I know the story of where it was discovered, but I want to know where it came in your mind. Where did Dude Love come in your mind?
I just know that I created this character, and I used to put a wig on and an orange headband, like it was a T-shirt, kind of like Rambo-esque type of thing. But Rambo didn't wear a tattered pajama top. That was like the epitome of cool for me. I'm going to go out. I'm going to be a character in a club or a bar, and I'm going to have far more confidence as that character than I had as myself. I thought, well, this is pretty cool, It
was great to see your smile, man. I mean, it was if it wasn't a sideways kind of half-cocked smile, it was the first time it was a genuine smile.
Oh yeah. But the same way that you knew that I was Cactus Jack when I debuted as Mankind. But the only people who knew were those WCW fans. Mm-hmm. So I would say 80% of the WWE audience that I was performing in front of didn't know what I looked like without the mask. They didn't have the internet then, so you could just look it up. People weren't so into discovering real names. So that when I came out as Dude Love, the only people put two and two together because I talked about this Dude Love character with Jim Ross in a series of interviews. So
Yeah.
they saw it and they saw this is his happy place. Like, this is the guy he's always wanted to be.
Yeah.
And they really climbed in.
And it's interesting. It kind of went from Mankind, transitioned into Dude Love, and then Mick Foley.
Can I just make you
Yeah,
played
go ahead.
some pretty hard rock, right?
Yeah.
This to me is a little heavier than this audience should have. Before we're hearing the music, I'm like, guys, I do a PG show. Like,
Yeah, it is a
think
PG show. It's a show for the whole family. Everybody, bring them
I
all
was like,
out.
hey, we might want to put a little mixture in there. You know?
What is so? I'm
This
glad you
is
brought
Zach
that up.
Della Rocca on vocals,
Oh
right?
yeah, he's getting angry. He's getting angry.
Angry, socially conscious lyrics. You know? Come on, let's dumb it down a little bit. Let's.
I don't know if anyone could hear this, but they're playing a little rage.
Yeah.
Well, let's get on music. What's some of your favorite genres or artists?
Oh man, well you heard me talk about Tori Amos
Yeah,
last
I
night.
did
You
that
know,
last
I run the gamut. You know, I do enjoy some hard rock and some metal. A good personal friends with Dee Snider, for example. I like an alternative country. I'm not crazy with where country has gone, where everybody's kind of sitting around writing the same song over and over. I like storytelling
yeah.
songs. But there are other ones you just, you love the beat. You might not even know the lyrics after listening to it for the 100th time. Good like Tom Petty, Springsteen, like the classic American rockers, and had a real fondness for Warren Zevon before the world caught on to him. So I DJ'd when I was in college, and we had an alternative radio station.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I had
That's
to put
awesome.
some alternative cuts in there, but I had some things that I loved to play. I'm No Angel by Greg Allman. At that time, it was One Hit to the Body by the Rolling Stones.
Right.
I would play April Wine and just a bunch of different things.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad I learned something new today with
yeah.
it. DJ Mick Foley.
It's an eclectic choice.
Yeah.
Steve Austin said it was the worst taste in the wrestling business. And that combined with me wanting to visit historic sites and museums had me on my own by year 3 in WWE.
Yeah. So now everyone knows you as Mick Foley. You've actually been able to use the character. I had a question. Is the character Mick Foley in the ring? Is that just you with the knob turned up just a little bit?
Yeah. Especially the closest character that to me was when I was the commissioner.
Yeah.
So I was me with the nerd dial tuned
Gotcha.
up, and I portray Santa every year, and I think
big into
that's the
Christmas.
closest to my heart. That one requires the least stretch, but it's the nicest stretch. You have to accentuate all the positive qualities.
Yeah. No, it's great. Man. So Mick Foley, knob turned off. Was that your own wardrobe that you just grabbed that from the closet and throw on the flannel and show up?
Oh, yeah.
That was.
Was
that awesome for you just to wear
I loved it,
the comfortable clothes you
I
wanted
loved
to?
it, yeah. I did, and the fans cut me a lot of slack, so I'm allowed to show up like this, sweatpants, no socks,
Yeah.
$10 sneakers.
So-
And I'm going to Chile in 2 days.
Chili.
For a convention, and I'm like, you ever when you're on the road where you're down to those last couple of clean items, and then you have to select the least dirty clothes to get you through those last couple days.
Enter the birth of Sokka.
There you go. There you go.
So, last little moment, I want to get your take on. We have a mutual friend, I believe, in Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. I didn't realize when you were at the Hall of Fame being inducted. I mean, that must have been a really cool moment for you, first of all, right? I mean,
It
just
was.
being inducted in general.
Yeah,
Terry
sure.
Funk, your mentor.
It's because I was the first guy they mentioned being inducted, right? And then all of a sudden they assemble this all-star team around me. Bruno Sammartino, the main guy, the two guys they were missing that absolutely needed to be there in their history. Bruno and Backlund, and they both get in my class. And then they had Booker, they had Trish, and not only was the lineup really impressive, but it was Schwarzenegger's inducting Bruno, Maria Menounos is inducting Backlund, Stephanie McMahon's inducting Trish, and Vince is inducting the current president of the United States. There's a lot of firepower up there.
Yeah.
And so they let me have anyone I wanted induct me. And I was like, hey, call me crazy, but I'm gonna have a wrestler do it. I don't really
Go
need
figure.
an actor, celebrity. I'm gonna have a wrestler. So Funk gave a great speech, and it was you know, and most guys are not in the arena they grew up going to as a fan. Like to be there in the Garden all those years after I retired, have people chanting my name, it was really special.
Yeah, I'm sure that must have been an incredible moment. You mentioned you got to drop an elbow on Chris that night.
Jericho, yep. I'm counting that as a victory.
I absolutely think you should. I'm going to talk to Chris after this. I'm going to send him a text and talk to him about that. Last little thing I'll mention is I didn't discover it until about a month ago. Holy Foley.
Yeah.
It was a great. How's the family doing, by the way? You got your family, you got Colette.
They're all doing pretty good. They're all doing pretty. My daughter got a concussion a couple months ago.
Oh, bummer.
Riding a roller coaster of all things.
Wow. What amusement park was that?
It was Dollywood. I love Dolly, but some of those things, they have a lot of motion there, and so she got banged up, and so other than that, we're all doing pretty good, and we're hoping that she'll be feeling better soon.
That's good.
It was such a fun show. I mean, I know there are people who did knock us for doing it. It's like, hey, let me see you turn down the chance to hang out with your own family for 10 weeks and get paid and do something together that you will remember the rest of your lives.
Absolutely.
Like, it was a great experience.
I enjoyed watching it. I think it was a great show. It was it's the reality TV show thing, It
is what it is. But what's funny is even with all the produced segments in there, the dialogue's all real. You're reacting the way you would if you were actually in that scenario. But then even amidst all the production, you have these very real moments. They're happening. Probably
it's got to be hard to, as you got cameras here.
Yeah. but I swear, when they were doing my business, they were doing my birthday at Knoebels Grove in Pennsylvania. And so it's like, I know that my wife isn't actually decorating the cabin to look. I know they have production assistants doing that, And like I come in, I know my daughter didn't bake me a shoe fly pie. Like I know my wife didn't get me the
look at all these
spoilers,
boots, Mick's giving me.
But then out of nowhere, I hear my music playing, the rec, my theme, and I think it's the radio or stereo, and I realize, wait a second, this is live music. And I look over, and there's my son Mickey playing my music like he'd worked on it without my knowledge.
Rad.
And he rocked out on it, and I was like, "This is the best birthday ever." And this moment is so real, even in reality TV.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's super cool. I forget where I was going to go here now. There's a way. So in the show, there's one thing. You have a Christmas room.
Yes.
You still have this room.
Well, yeah, it's a little different. That, in the interest of full disclosure, they rented that house for us because my house is more than 42 miles from New York City.
Okay.
So they either had to put the crew up in hotels or pay them overtime. And so they sent me a photo of a house they wanted to rent. I showed it to my wife. And I would come back every weekend. She loved that house so much she just stayed there. She never came back. But it was a great house. And also,
it looked gorgeous.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. So I do have the original Christmas room, and it's still looking good.
That's awesome. So you love Christmas all year round. I just have to ask, do you turn it up around Christmas time?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're decorating the house. You're doing the whole nine?
You know what? Here's the thing is, no, I don't do any extra decorating. Because I realized, remember Clint Eastwood, I'm dating myself, I'm a lot older than you, but he had a movie called Magnum Force, and the catchphrase there was, a man's got to know his limitations.
Yes.
So I took that to heart, and especially after around 91, I was like, in no way, shape, or form does like a 300-pound guy on a ladder yelling curses in the air add to anyone's holiday spirit. So
it's definitely not Santa-esque.
I've hired guys a few times to do it, but by and large we don't decorate that much. Not more.
You're not Griswolding it out.
Not Griswolding it out, even though I am friends with Ellen Griswold.
That's pretty rad.
Beverly came to my show 2 years ago in Pasadena.
That's rad.
She yelled out, "I love you, Mick." I heard that voice from Ellen Griswold. Doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So do you ever watch back? Have you seen all of your matches?
No, I don't like to watch them.
You don't like to watch them back?
No, a lot of people are. I mean, I understand.
I know some people are different about that, I could imagine. I don't like to watch back our performances or anything like that.
Even last night, which I thought was one of the best events I've done, they were kind enough to record it for me. And I watched a couple minutes, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to mess with my memory of what went down. Although I should watch it just to see what worked, what didn't work, what I might be able to.
I'll watch it for you and tell you. How about that?
Okay. But I mean, I can go back in my head and be like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to put more emphasis on this syllable. You know, like even the littlest thing, you know, even if it's a facial expression, you know. Like the thing I do where Danucci tells me, you know, first compliment he gives me is where he's like, "You got a ball this big," and then you're like, "That's a pretty good line," but how do I get material out of it? So as soon as I establish that I have to put the microphone in the cradle so that I can use both hands for a gesture, and it's just fun to stretch it out and see where the laughs come.
Yeah.
And some nights they come at different points in front of different audiences, and I think everything in life comes down to getting your reps in. So whether it's being in a band or shooting a basketball. Yeah, come in. Is this how we end with the knock
I guess
on the door?
so.
All right.
But I just want to ask you to try and work in at one point in your life on the tour here. Can you work in the Chamber of Horrors from 1991, Halloween Havoc?
You can ask about it tonight.
I'll ask about it
Please do.
tonight. If you get a chance, go check out Halloween Havoc 1991
and
watch
Halloween,
the Butcher get
electrocuted. Speaking of Halloween, my son Mickey does a metal version of the Halloween theme where he plays lead guitar, rhythm guitar, drums, bass, keyboard, and does all his own editing.
This sounds rad.
Pretty cool.
I'm gonna have to check this out. Good of you, Mickey.
Yeah.
Good of you. So where can the folks check you out a little bit more?
Just go. I keep it real. RealMickFoley.com is the email or the website, and Facebook and Twitter are Real Mick Foley.
Awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it, Johnny.
Great
Thank
show
you.
tonight. Go check out drinkswithjohnny.com for everything Drinks with Johnny, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Yeah.